Westplex 107.1. It is BS in the morning. Shelly, are you there?
You know I'm here.
Shelly, are you there?
Yes, I was actually welcoming everybody, but my microphone wasn't turned on yet.
Are you there, Shelly? Well, why didn't you turn your microphone on? You know where the switch is.
Yeah, it's where you're at, and you always tell me not to touch anything.
We're in the same room.
Again, I ask you what that button
We've got our
is for,
6
and
foot
you're like,
distancing.
don't touch that.
We've got our 6 foot distancing that we have.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, yep. Forecast for today. We're going to have that in just a minute from Jennifer
Wojcicki.
All I can tell you is that it gets weirder every day. It's going to be hot today. I mean, for this time of the year. Today's April 7th, so we are just like, first week of April, 80 degrees. I'll just give you a hint on that. Lots of stuff going on in the news this morning. Crazy, weird stuff again. By the way, why are we here? We are here to, A, inform you, B, try to make you smile a little bit more. Probably, maybe, sometimes in that order, sometimes the reverse order is goofy stuff. Shelley says goofy things.
I really do.
Off the wall kind of things.
I totally do.
And we've got her saying things like, like this.
What does the fox say?
That's what she does. So anyway, what was I going to say?
I don't know.
Oh boy, all sorts of stuff with if you're into these things with voting and all the crazy stuff. Wow, a Supreme Court decision for Wisconsin. Do you know about this?
No. What is going on with Wisconsin?
Wisconsin presidential primary is today, and the governor of Wisconsin essentially said, in these trying times, or in these challenging times, everybody has to start out with that. But essentially, he was going to say, hey, you know what? We're going to accept absentee ballots for like the next week or something like that. I can't remember what time period it was, but essentially, usually when the date of the election, when the polls close, zoom, that's it. Everything's supposed to, people are supposed to have voted, and, all the absentee votes that should have been in. And the Supreme Court essentially said, nope, you can't extend that. So when the polls close, that's it. Absentee ballots aren't in by the time the polls closed. That's tough luck. Now, when you think about that, in most states, and I think it is in Missouri, absentee ballot, you got to get, you can't call the day of the election and say, hey, can I get an absentee ballot? You got to do that ahead of time because you're going to be out of the country or, right now, I don't think there's too many excuses for people being out of the country. I think, a matter of fact, there was something I read the other day that the State Department said that they've retrieved like 45,000 Americans from foreign countries that they had to like send military planes or special charters and things like that to get people home because you can't fly into the country anymore.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the international flights are pretty much gone. You can't, be in London and say, hey, I'm going to fly to New York. So they had to arrange special things. Anyway, that's the deal. Supreme Court 5-4 decision. So sort of interesting as far as that's concerned, if you're a government watcher, because there is going to be, you watch, this is going to be an interesting year because yesterday, or was it last week, Joe Biden hinted that the Democratic convention could be virtual. The NFL.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what he said. The NFL draft is going to be held that way, and which is always like a big deal when they draft the college players. The NFL draft is going to be virtual. So I guess everybody's going to be sitting around their house in their underwear. All the different managers, general managers, and coaches of all the different teams sitting around in their underwear. Hey, we're going to take Joe Smith from Oklahoma. That kind of stuff. So, God, this is so strange. You know what I mean? Every day it's weird stuff.
Every day is different, and you feel differently.
Shelly and I are also doing afternoons now. We're doing an extra hour in the morning till 9 o'clock, and then we do 4 to 6 in the afternoon. And yesterday, nasty bad news out of St. Charles County, Centerpoint Hospital. Still, I'm trying to decipher some of the things. I've read a couple different statistics on that there were 15, one report said 15, one report said there were 18 people tested positive, and the majority of those, I think at Centerpoint, were staff, not necessarily the workers. And then a really outbreak at I got it right here in the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. See if I can.
At Frontier?
Yes, Frontier Health and Rehabilitation on West Clay. That is on the north side of 70, east of Zumble. They had a tremendous breakout there where, according to the report we had yesterday, 35 people tested positive in one place. So, boy, St. Charles County. But still, if you hear the Missouri numbers, which are good, it's a fraction of the Illinois numbers. The Illinois numbers are in the 10,000s now. I think Missouri is like in around 3,000 the entire state. So anyway, we'll keep you up to date on that kind of stuff. Tell you what's going on, various things like that. No guests today? I don't think we have any guests today.
That's not true. We do have a guest.
Who's our guest today?
And I am going to get that for you.
You don't have it on the top of your head? Well, I tell you what. Here, you figured out. We're going to go. We're going to break for weather spots, things like that, and we will be back. It's BS in the morning at 6:37.
Westplex 107.1. We're the new station for the Westplex. O'Fallon, St. Charles, St. Peters, Wentzville, Lake St. Louis, Weldon Spring, and Darden Prairie. The Westplex. Westplex 107.1.
Tornadoes can destroy buildings, flip cars, and create deadly flying debris. Hi, this is Wentzville.
Are you talking to yourself again?
Yes, I am, because you didn't turn up my microphone again, and you wouldn't let me touch it.
You see, there's a trend. Maybe I wouldn't turn on your microphone.
Yes, I do see there's a trend, actually.
How much dead air was there?
That was about 60 seconds.
Oh, man, I had a problem. I had to go fix something. So I'm sorry. I apologize.
Well, anyway, what I was saying is we are BS in the morning. I am Shelley. He is Brad. That makes up BS. And we are here to put you in the proper mood for the day, given the circumstances. And you can listen to us. Well, you can listen to us on the air at Westplex 107.1. You can also podcast us. If you weren't able to listen to the show, you can go to bradbs.com. That'll take you directly to our podcast. Or you can stream us at bsinthemorning.show. Did I miss anything?
No, you're doing such a good job. I'm just going to take the rest of the morning off. You can just handle the whole thing. No?
But I need you to fix the board.
Oh, well, I'll just put it on remote. Here, let me flip this remote switch.
Here's the thing. I'm the co-host. You're the host. You have to be here.
No. Hey, my motto, whatever man can do, woman can do better. That's how I feel. And people, whenever I say that, people go like,
over the years that I've known you.
People go like, especially women, you don't believe that. I go, I do. I really do believe that. I think that women are much more capable than men.
I know that men don't do death well, nor do they do sickness well.
No, there are a lot of things. Most things they don't do well. They're terrible. Like me.
Like they can't spell.
Yeah, but who needs to spell anymore? You got spell check. It's like
my spell check is wrong half the time.
No. You don't need.
It's like my GPS, my maps, and my phone.
Right.
That little stinker took me to. I was going out to someplace, I can't remember where, but it took me like the wrong direction. And then my screen went dark, and so I couldn't see anything. I was like helpless.
Well, it's not as bad as me. Like not this past year, but 2 years ago, when I was in Las Vegas, I wanted to go to. I had a little time to kill at the convention, so I had a rental car. So I wanted to go to In-N-Out, which is like the big burger chain on the West Coast, which is really good. French fries are really good because they don't.
I think I've actually tried that.
Oh, they don't. They make the French fries in the store. It's like the old days of McDonald's, where they actually take the potatoes and they chop them up, and
once they changed their oil.
No, it wasn't the oil.
McDonald's fries weren't the same.
They used to use fresh potatoes. That was the deal. They chopped them up. They had a machine right there in the store that made the French fries, and and then they went to frozen French fries. Anyway, I'm using my Google GPS, and 3 times it took me these crazy ways. The worst one was it took me on the campus of UNLV, University of Nevada at Las Vegas, and it showed that I needed to go on this street, which was a pedestrian walkway, through the middle of campus that had like those bollards on each end of it, where you're not supposed to put vehicles on it. I'm looking at it going like, no, hold on a minute now. What is this? And sure enough, that's where it showed me. And it was crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, man, normally I have good luck with Google Maps, but man, not in Las Vegas. And finally, I just said, okay, I'm getting spoiled by GPS and Google Maps. I have this crazy weird thing with me in Las Vegas, and I can get out of the airport.
You do have a strange bond with that.
Well, no. I can get out of the airport in Las Vegas. I can get a rental car, and I can drive around like a local. I mean, I know where I'm at, and it's weird. I mean, I don't
Uber.
I don't spend that much time in Las Vegas. It's not, I haven't been there, and I was there last year. Won't be there this year because they canceled our convention, which was going to be next week or the week after. But
Right.
I can get out of the airport. I mean, years ago, when my oldest son was young, and he went with me one year for the convention, I got out of the airport, got a rental car, and man, driving here, driving there. Matter of fact, it was funny because he didn't believe me that there were slot machines like in everywhere. And I told him, I said, well, there's the 7-Eleven right off the strip that, you go there at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, there's people inside the 7-Eleven playing slot machines. And he's going like, yeah, Dad, right. So we get the rental car. I get out of the, out of the rental car garage, drive, like driving like I'm a local, and drove right up to the 7-Eleven. And first off, he goes, how did you know where you're going? I go, I don't know. It's just weird thing I have with Las Vegas. And so we go in the 7-Eleven, and sure enough, there's like 6 slot machines. It was like 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. No, it wasn't a Saturday morning. No, it was a Sunday morning. Yeah, it was like 9 o'clock on a Sunday. 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, we go to 7-Eleven, and there's people in there playing the slot machines. And he was like, oh, I don't believe it. He was just like dumbstruck by the whole thing. But that's my weird knack. So finally, the last time I was there 2 years ago, I just said, screw this, and I just started driving and going, okay, I know where I'm at right now, and cross over to the other side of I-15. Bang, there's the in and out. Boom, I'm in, I'm out. It was good.
Do you want to hear something cute?
Puppies.
They are kind of cute. I'm not going to lie. My puppies are a constant source of entertainment. Even though the one is still learning to be housebroken and the other one wants to eat my face. But that's a whole other story.
Okay, so tell me something cute.
SLU has opened the campus housing to healthcare workers who need coronavirus isolation.
Well, there's no students there, and still, the question I have asked, and I even have people that I know that work at the various school districts, what's happening with the seniors this year? If you're a high school senior or a college senior, if you're a college senior, and, some of these people already have jobs lined up. I know a lot of people say,
that's my Tiffany.
Well, but what's she doing? I mean, here, let's talk about that next hour. I mean, we'll carry that over next hour because I have yet to get a definitive answer from anybody. I mean, anybody I ask, well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? So, and some school districts have already said they're not going back. They're done. Other ones started, I think Illinois started this thing yesterday where they started official telelearning yesterday, which is mandatory across the state. That's in Illinois. I have no idea what Missouri's doing, if there's any kind of a statewide initiative or anything like that. But, maybe we can make some phone calls and find out. I mean, you know what, though? You know why I can't find any educators?
Because they're practicing their retirement?
No, they're already on vacation. They decide, hey, June's come early this year.
This is not a vacation for them.
6:56. Westplex 107.1. Did you listen to the lyrics of that song, Shelley?
I don't. I just like the sound that it makes and how it makes me feel after it's over. What?
Wow. If you listen to the lyrics of that song may be the theme song for this whole situation. 100 bad days leads to 100 good stories. And so far, how many?
That's
how many,
actually probably really true,
how
Brad.
many bad
Thank
days
you
have
for
we
that.
had? Oh, man, crazy stuff. Okay, we're talking about this last hour. Your daughter is in nursing school right now, and she's supposed
Correct.
to graduate. Have they told her what's happening?
If they have, she hasn't told me, but
she's,
that's okay.
But
'cause
she's not
actually working. She's a paramedic at one of the hospitals, and so she's a frontline worker.
But she's not going to school, though, right?
No, she's going to school. They're not physically meeting; they're virtually meeting.
Right.
And
but doesn't she have
took
clinicals?
Her last
doesn't she
online?
Doesn't she have clinicals and things like that?
Yeah, she took her last online clinical last week.
How do you take your clinicals online? I thought you had to be like in a room showing people what you're doing and things like that.
It's like a Zoom call.
So, I mean, don't they have like dummies that they practice on and stuff like that?
Not at their homes.
No, I know that. That's what I'm saying. How can you do that virtually? I mean, I thought that like nursing schools, maybe I'm, mentally ill. Maybe that's not maybe that's it. I am. But
No,
I
you're not,
I could have sworn somebody was telling me about nursing school, and you have all this hands-on stuff, and you practice sticking people with IVs and stuff like that. I mean, how do you do that virtually?
Well, that's hard to do. And she works. So she works in the field. She's a paramedic.
Right.
So she knows the clinical stuff she doesn't have a problem with.
But once again, you have no idea. And she has not told you. She might have an idea. The school, as far as you know, the school has not said to her nor you, hey, this is the deal. We go with graduation just as normal.
Correct. They haven't said that.
Okay. And
because she actually graduates in April.
Right. This is April.
I understand that, but she walks in May.
Yeah, well, but once again, is from what you understand, and are they going to walk? I mean, is there going to be like a graduation ceremony?
I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is that she's contemplating. In New York, they're giving $10,000 bonuses for nurses and doctors to come to New York.
Yeah, but she has to get her certification first, because that's the deal. You have to have your license.
They're relinquishing that, and she can be a GRN.
What's a GRN?
A graduate registered nurse.
What does that mean?
And she can go down there as a paramedic as well.
What is a GRN? What is a graduate registered nurse as opposed to a registered nurse?
Meaning that they've graduated, they've completed the curriculum, but they haven't taken their NCLEX yet.
Their what?
It's like the SAT. Or no, it's like the LSAT.
Did you say they haven't taken their Netflix yet? Was that what you said?
No, NCLEX.
Oh, NCLEX. Oh, that's where they work with the chickens? Isn't that what that is, the NCLEX?
That's exactly it.
That's what I thought.
And I have to say something. I'm gonna boast about my daughter.
Oh, here we go.
I have to.
Well, then
she sent me this letter.
Now, hold it. If you're going to do it, then I get to boast about my daughter, too.
If it would touch her heart, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Wait a minute. Let me think where I'm at. So she sent me this letter. I wish I could read the letter, but I won't. But she sent me this letter of a letter that her coworker sent to her and the hospital. And there were 5 divisions, or not groups, that make up, a call to action in the hospital. And Tiffany, this girl feels that Tiffany reaches and personifies all of the 5 things. And this letter was so beautiful and all true. And it's not because I'm prejudiced. It is all true. But that had to just sit there and touch that child's heart. It touched mine for her. So there really is some good coming out of this. We are really seeing the best of humanity and the worst of humanity kind of sprinkled in for a good measure. But we are seeing the best of humanity.
Well, I will say, and there was something I was just reading this morning, comments that were made by Dr. Fauci at the press conference yesterday, and I agree with him. I don't think everything's ever going to be normal again. I don't think that the Cardinals are ever going to sell out a baseball game again.
I disagree with that.
I don't think
they'll sell it first day they're back.
Oh, no. There'll be people that are just like, no, not going outside my house. I mean, because this has instilled so much fear in so many people. I mean, the brave people, they're just going to move on down the road. I mean, the people are just going to no big deal, but there's going to be so many people who are going to oh my God, because now, and once again, my industry, the press, the media is already there. Well, it might come back next year and it could be that it could be because of the fact that you trimmed your toenails that, I mean, it's like what? And, all this weird stuff that keeps coming out every day. And I have to tell you, Trump is not at his best in some of these press conferences. Okay, people are going to go like, oh boy, not his best, he's the worst. But the press is just exacerbating the situation by all the stupid questions they ask him every single day.
And the same questions, like he's going to get a different answer. It's like having questions from a 13-year-old.
And the problem is that I get, it's like the deal with the governor of New York. Okay, I get it. And I get what Trump's doing, okay? You want to be, in times of crisis, you want to be large and in charge. You want to be there, you want to be, and it gets to the point where there's only so many times you can say the same thing. I mean, to the point where you just keep repeating. And then it gets to the point where it just gets to be conjecture. And that's the thing, like when Dr. Fauci gets up, nothing against him. Dr. Birx, she gets up there. They're talking off the top of their head. There's no research that says that this is the way it's going to be, because you know what? If there were research, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's every day's a new learning curve. And that's the important aspect of this. Every single day, we learn something new, something new comes out, and the other thing is the thing that I'm going to ask you a weird question, not that I'm a media conspiracy theory, stuff like that. I keep seeing these pictures of these makeshift hospitals they put together, like, in various places, and, like on big convention center floors and things like that. And there's nobody there. And, they talked about like the Comfort, the ship that's in New York Harbor. Okay. It's got 1,000, can handle 1,000 patients. There's 20 people there. Okay. And it's to the point where it's like, okay, if it's really that crazy bad, why aren't these places packed? And I know people are going to say, I can't believe he's saying that. He's essentially saying it's all. I think the numbers are still just way overblown. And the crazy thing is, I heard somebody, where was that last night? And I read this where they're talking about that you will go back to the H1N1 virus in the United States. There were like 85,000 people that died in the United States. And, we didn't have any quarantines, and we didn't have any businesses shut down and stuff like that. And so far, what's the national number? 10, 11,000? And you know what?
Yeah, to me, H1N1 was like a non-issue.
Well, every one of those people.
And it's because the media did not hype it up like they are doing COVID.
Well, every one of those people that has died. I mean, I don't want to say, well, there's only 10,000 people. And, somebody's out there is going to say, well, one of them was my relative. One of them was my father, my mother, my sister, my brother, whatever. I get it. I get it. But yet when you're dealing in situations like this, it comes down to numbers. And you're seeing trends, and you're seeing, things happen. I mean, you're seeing obviously the situation that we've had in St. Charles County, where you have a hospital and a rehabilitation center where people are in close contact with each other, and bang, it spreads. Get it. I totally understand. But yet there's people that have had it, and they go like it was like a bad cold.
Dream.
No, bad cold. It was like a bad cold. I had some cough. I didn't feel well. Had a minor fever. Felt sort of draggy. Done with. And people go, yeah, but there are people that. I get it. Just like Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of England, still in ICU in England. And I'm going like, man, don't know about that. I mean,
really?
And oh yeah, but the situation is that I heard a doctor the other day. Matter of fact, it was Dr. Oz, and here he was. I mean, in one respect, I heard him talking this. Oh man, here you go, and he's pimping his deal again. His deal is, his deal that brought him to prominence. His real
that was Oprah, wasn't it?
No.
That was Dr. Phil.
No. Oprah brought him to prominence. But do you know why? She brought him to prominence? He
probably did something magnificent for her.
No, he didn't. He wrote a book called, I think he co-wrote, I don't think he wrote it himself, called Real Age. And essentially, he has this whole thing. He still does this called Real Age. And the idea being is you can have like two 40-year-old women. You can have two women side by side. One of them can be in perfect health. One of them can be in, 50 pounds overweight, smokes, drinks, takes meth, whatever. And the idea being is that the 150-year-old woman is, chronologically, or I said 40, one 40-year-old woman is chronologically 40, but yet physically she may be 25 or 30. And the other,
I'm not that girl. I'm actually more than my age.
Well, the other woman would be 40 years old, and physically,
Yes.
like health-wise, she may be 60. And
Yes.
and what he was talking about was how good a shape you're in right now. And he said that the people, for the most part, who are taking this virus badly, and unfortunately some of them even dying, are not in that good a shape. And you hear so many of the older people, that's the problem they're having in Italy, because the population is much older. The average age in Italy is much older than most places around the world, for that matter. And they're just having a terrible problem with that. And anyway, the point being is that every day you see the press conference and then you get BJ Pritzker, who's, he needs to lose some weight. Have I ever said that? I think he's overweight and needs to lose some weight.
Would you leave that man alone? Because I can't say anything because I've gained 15 pounds being stuck in this house. If my husband says that I'm messing with his chi.
Okay, if JB Pritzker walked into Dr. W's office, you know who I'm talking about. What's the first thing that would come out of Dr. W's mouth?
Well, it wouldn't be the first thing, but it would eventually get down to you need to lose weight.
Oh, it would be the first thing. Because
it would not.
Oh, yeah, it would be.
Not with a new patient.
Oh, yeah, it would, because they weigh you. They weigh you. Whenever you go to see Dr. W, they always weigh you. And he walked in and he looks at the chart and he says, "You put on some weight." With JB Pritzker, he'd say, like, "You need to lose some weight." I had that with my dad. I mean, my dad had a type 2 adult onset diabetes.
So do I, and so does my husband. And my son.
One time when I got, after I'd lost all my weight, I got a little bit heavy again. And I remember my dad, I used to go over and cut his grass on Sunday. It used to be my routine, go over to my dad's house. My mom and dad's house, I'd cut the grass. And then it was like football season. And after I get done, I went and watched a little bit of football with him. And my dad didn't talk much, as opposed to me. And my dad looked over me, like in a commercial break. And he looked over to me and said, "You're getting too heavy. Lose the goddamn weight." Excuse my French. And I went, "Whoa, where'd that come from?" It was like, and I looked at him and he says, "You don't want to end up like me, do you?" I go, "Not the way you are," because ultimately, near the end of his life, he had to have his leg amputated because of his diabetes. And man, that was a wake-up call for me. And once again, it was one of those things where when my dad said that to me, it's like, whoa, man, I went out and lost 25 pounds like in a month and a half. Right after that. I mean, literally, that pushed me to the point where I'm going like, man, have to do something here. And my dad's on my case about this. And he saw me when I got really heavy. He was on my case all the time. Everybody was. When I weighed 310, oh my God,
And so who was it that told you needed to lose weight? Your daddy or Dr. W?
Both of them.
Well, okay, so your dad probably did it because he felt it was his responsibility. And
it's my responsibility to BJ Pritzker that the dude needs to lose some weight.
You don't have a responsibility to that man.
I do, because he's a fellow human being. If I'm walking down the street and I see some guy who's going to do bodily harm to himself, I'm going to walk up to him and say, I don't care what it is. Let's say the guy's, he's going to commit suicide. And I speak from personal experience in that one, because I won't tell that story. But anyway, I don't care who it is. I'm going to intervene, and that's just one of those things. It's just.
But weight is something different. You don't go up to a complete stranger and go, "Hi, I'm Brad.
BJ
and
Pritzker's.
I was looking at you from across the room.
No.
And you really need to lose weight."
No. Hi, my name's Brad. I was looking at you from across the room, and did you fall from the sky? Did you fall from? Well, obviously you must have, because you're an angel that fell from the sky.
Yeah, that's not the way that joke goes, and that wouldn't be appropriate for the governor of Illinois.
Is your daddy a thief? Obviously, he must be, because he stole the stars from the skies and put them in your eyes.
Oh, thank you, Brad. Look, it's 7:19.
Am I supposed to do something?
You are. You're supposed to call Chief Chef Mike Johnson.
What time?
Sugar Fire.
What time?
7.
Oh, what do you mean? We've been talking all this time. I thought you.
I know, it's been lovely.
Oh my God!
I have enjoyed it thoroughly.
Whoa! You had somebody lined up for 7:00 and you didn't tell me?
I did tell you, Brad.
You didn't tell me the time. You told me what we had a guest. You didn't tell me. Oh my God! I feel
okay. So
do me a favor, contact him. We'll pick him up. Can we get him at 7:30?
Hold on. He just says I've got a lot of calls this morning, starting at 7:45. Will we be done with them by then?
Yeah, we'll do him at 7:30. I gotta get caught up here. And okay. So we'll pick him up. Can he do 7:30?
I'm asking him.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and take a break. It's 7:20. Westplex 107.1. It is BS in the morning. It is 7:31. I am Shelley. She is Brad. And on the phone with me, we have a special guest. It is Chef Mike Johnson of Sugar Fire fame. Morning to you.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, you know what? Can I ask you a question right off the bat?
Yeah.
You know, I've been in started crazy business for a long time. I've been, worked in police. I was police dispatcher, worked in the radio business. And, Sugar Fire, to me, tastes as good at 6 o'clock at night as it does at 6 o'clock in the morning. When are you guys going to start breakfast?
Did you say breakfast?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would do it if everybody's up to it. Barbecue breakfast sounds crazy, but I do a lot of work in Australia, too, so I'm there several times a year. And there's a couple of barbecue restaurants there that crush it at breakfast, and so maybe we'll try it somewhere.
Really? So they're people eat barbecue for breakfast in Australia?
Yeah. Oh, I'll see it all the time. Yeah, like a couple of spots there, and they kill it.
Well, it's always crazy to me because, like I said, maybe because I've worked all sorts of different shifts, a pizza tastes as good at 6 o'clock in the morning it does at 6 o'clock at night to me. Matter of fact, sometimes better, and it always bothers me. Well, like I'm a fan.
I've been doing that now, being stuck at home. Like, we'll get up, we'll have, spaghetti and meatballs for breakfast because who cares anymore? You know what I'm saying? I mean, for real. It doesn't matter. We'll do whatever, whenever. You know?
Yeah. Now you're the head guy. You started this whole thing, right?
Yeah. Yes, I hatched it out of my brain. Yeah, I guess 10 years ago. We have franchises and stuff. So, there's probably 700 people that we work with now. And, all the franchisees, and they're all doing most of the work right now. I own some of the original stores and some other restaurants, but it started 10 years ago.
Well, not one of the original stores, was that the one down in Olive, just west of?
Yeah, Olivet. Yeah, that's Olivet store.
Yeah. I've been there many, many, many times, and that was the original store, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be darned. Now, you've been in the restaurant business a long time?
Yeah, I just turned 49, so I've been doing it since I was 16. So. That's a long time. But I was mostly like a fine dining chef before Sugar Fire. So I worked all over the world. I was in France, LA, New Orleans, Chicago. And then I owned, a bunch of restaurants around St. Louis in the late 90s and early 2000s. And then I switched over to barbecue.
Now, I heard was an out-of-town chef who was interviewed on a radio show, I guess about 2 or 3 months ago. And he said the hardest restaurants to run are barbecue. Is that right?
Well, yes and no. If you're not doing volume, yes, it's impossible. If you're doing good volume, it's not that hard. But everyone thinks it's so easy. It probably is the hardest restaurant to run. Number one, because everybody's an expert, first of all. So everybody that comes in thinks they know how to barbecue better than you, pretty much. Because I've been doing my backyard. I know what good barbecue is, and I don't know. It's hard and it's easy.
Now, I'm going to ask you a weird question about, and we'll talk about what you guys are doing with all the the shutdowns and things like that. But years and years and years ago, remember the old KC Masterpiece?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. They had the location over there on Lindbergh, South Olive. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Do you remember the crazy story about when they tried to get zoning for that? Do you remember this weird story?
No.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. The I guess that's Creve Coeur right there. That they and that guy was out of Kansas City. He was a doctor or something. Like, wasn't it what he was?
Yeah, a doctor. Yep.
Right. Okay. And he applied to that used to be a really high end restaurant called Wade's Gathering Place or something like that. Anyway,
yep.
He applied to for a permit to open his restaurant there in Creve Coeur. And the neighbors complained because they were afraid that they would smell the barbecue all day. So and this is a true story. I'm not making this up. A bunch of the city council people, they chartered a bus and they drove to Kansas City and drove around his restaurants in Kansas City to smell how far the smell from his restaurants would permeate the neighborhood, and then decided to give him a permit. Have you ever had that happen to you, where somebody said to you, "Hey, we're not"?
No, but like in our places, no, but close. Like we've offered to fly in. Like we have stores in Colorado and out of state, and we've offered to fly in landlords that have been wary about that. Like in downtown Denver, the guy our first one was going to be in this big high-rise downtown. And the guy who owned the building said he didn't want smoke, and we're like, well, it doesn't really smell if you put the right zit in. And we offered to fly him out. He didn't take us up on it. But
did he let you build it then? Did he let you build it?
No.
Oh, he shot you.
No, he let another restaurant go in that went out of business in 6 months. So it's his loss. We put one in a different spot. It's doing great.
I'll be darned.
Whatever.
Now, with what you're doing on right now, are all your stores open for like takeout? And
no, we closed. Indianapolis was really slow, and Cape Girardeau we closed temporarily. But they're all open for carryout and curbside and delivery or whatever.
Now, you started with the one there in Olivet. How many of them there are now?
16, and then we got 4 under construction. We'll see how those are. We got Jacksonville, Dallas, one in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that's working, another one. So those were all, I mean, I guess they're on hold now, but.
Now, you're in an industry, sort of like our industry, the radio business. You work crazy hours, to a certain extent. There's sort of no days off. If someone was going to say, hey, I'm a young guy, like you said, you started 16, would you tell them this is the business to go into?
No, I told them to go to law school. It's just too hard to make money. Like, I mean, I do good now, but I'm old. It's like, it's just too much hard work. And, I have 5 kids, and I have kids that are in college now, and I was working so many hours and so many nights when they were kids. I missed a lot of their childhood, and it's not a lifestyle I would recommend to anybody. Plus, it's dangerous, and it's fickle, I don't know. I wouldn't get in the business, probably. I mean, I'm lucky. I know how lucky I am. I do great. And it took a long time to get here, but if I was young, no, I would definitely would not do that.
Interesting. Now, is the biggest location you have right now, is that the Wentzville location?
That's the biggest one. That's the largest location by far. I think it's about 6,000 square feet. Most of our stores are around 3,000 square feet.
And some of them are even smaller. The one there in Winghaven, that's a pretty small one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about, I think, 2,200 square feet.
Right. But what's interesting is that and I'm going to ask you a weird question. Okay, years ago, I'm on a convention and I'm flying down to Orlando, and I run into a buddy of mine on the plane. We get off the plane, we go to a local restaurant, and on the menu is St. Louis style barbecue. And the guy I was with, we both looked at the waitress and we said to her, "What is St. Louis style barbecue?" And we,
I know.
She didn't know we were from St. Louis. And she says, "Well, everybody in St. Louis eats it." And we said, well, we're both from St. Louis. Yeah, what is St. Louis? Is there a St. Louis style barbecue?
Not really. There's Kansas City, and there's Memphis, and there's Texas, and there's North Carolina. But St. Louis style, is really just we pull like most people here cook baby back, so that's Memphis, really Memphis style. And we all really do our pork more of a Kansas City style, our pulled pork. And we actually do more of our brisket, more of our beef, more of a Texas style. So really St. Louis style is all whatever she's saying is BS, because I remember when I was doing research to open Sugar Fire, I was in New York, because there's actually some good barbecue in New York City. And I went in this hipster spot, and they said they're going to introduce me to real St. Louis style barbecue. and it was just so weird. It had nothing to do with anything. St. Louis is really more St. Louis style is more like these kind of like more urban spots like, A&R and Smokey O's does great St. Louis style barbecue, more of a saucy like pork steak kind of thing. That to me is more St. Louis style than this other stuff.
Yeah. So would you consider Sugar Fire to be St. Louis style barbecue? Have you sort of coined your own?
I think now it is, because I think now we've changed. Between Pappy's and Bogarts and us and Beast and Salt and Smoke and some of these other guys, I think St. Louis is on the map nationally now. I mean, we win we all win national awards. We all win national contests. So now it's kind of, but I don't think 10 years ago, I don't think there was really a St. Louis style.
Yeah, well, that was, like I said, it was sort of interesting to me because I've heard the Kansas City in the same deal. Hey, Chief Chef Mike Johnson, interesting guy, entrepreneur. I've read a lot about you in the trade publications. I've read a lot about you in St. Louis Business Journal, Post-Dispatch. Man, it's an honor to have you on the air. Anything you want to promote as far as your restaurants? What's going on in these crazy times?
Just that we're all open. We're all very safe and clean. It's like we're not really laying people off. We're using these extra people to do deliveries and to clean like nonstop. So and some people have said, you're greedy, stay open. We're not staying open, making money. We're actually losing our asses by staying open. It's more about our employees and the people that want to work and want to keep this going, and support their families. It's not about us, trying to print money. Because that ain't happening.
Well, see, and that's the interesting thing because I've said that before, and I've had people sort of, well, that's not true. Most of the places, if your business model is people come in, they sit down, they eat the food, that's your business model. All of a sudden, if your business model is disrupted, you're in a totally different realm, and you're not doing the volume you did once upon a time, correct?
Well, if you think about it this way, a good restaurant runs a 30% labor cost. Our sales at our restaurants are at 20% of normal right now, so just to stay open, we lose. We lose. Like when it gets to the point like where we lose way too much, like our downtown High Point Drive-In. I mean, it was just doing no sales. So we like zero. So we had to temporarily close when this is open. Well, that place kills it normally, but downtown is like really slow right now. There's nobody down there. But no, we're not like the grocery store. I think they might be doing well. So they're that type of place. Yeah, stay open, stay well. We stay open because we're trying to support our employees.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I mean, but I'm a guy that is out on the street every day with the radio stations. But I have to tell you, the volume is way down at the grocery stores. The last couple of days, I go into the Schnucks, and there's hardly anybody in them anymore.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's really tailed off. It's not like it used to be. Now they're all camped out at Costco and Sam's because they're buying truckloads of toilet paper. If you know what I'm saying. But
yeah, I don't understand that either.
I don't get that. Now, how are you guys doing on toilet paper? How did you do with that?
We have tons. I don't know. I think we have a lot here. It's weird.
Are you the guys that cornered the market, or is Sugar Fire the ones that ate up all the toilet paper?
No, but we buy our stuff. We buy all those paper products from a big company. They probably have warehouses of it.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing I checked. I came in here last week. I was like, I wonder if we have toilet paper. I went in. We have like 2 boxes. But nobody comes in to use the bathroom anymore anyway, so it's not like we're blowing through it.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, Mike, appreciate your time. Interesting talking with you. You gave me some good insights. And by the way, my daughter went to law school, and she decides she wants to be in the barbecue business.
Good for her.
I'll talk to you. Talk to you later, man. Bye-bye. Interesting guy, huh?
He really is. And Sugar Fire is just the best of the best.
Yeah, man.
I can personally talk about the Wentzville Sugar Fire.
Oh, they do so much advertising with us.
I'm sorry?
They do so much advertising with us.
Anyway, I went there because I love their Sugar Fire. And if you've not had their toasted rab, it's brisket. But I went there, and this is when it all first started, and they were one of the first to jump on the bandwagon, institute the 6-foot rule, sanitize. They sanitize before they come out to you. They're wearing gloves. They do the 6-foot rule, and now I'm sure they're probably wearing masks. But my food was delicious. It was hot, and they actually put it on a chair so I could walk over there and get it and not violate the 6-foot rule. The whole experience was lovely.
Don't you find it interesting that I asked him the St. Louis barbecue question? He had the same thing. We went to a restaurant in New York, and they were telling him it was St. Louis style, because that's the weird thing. I mean,
they say St. Louis style ribs.
Well, but to me, St. Louis style, and he talked about it, is pork steaks. Because if you go anyplace else in the country, nobody eats pork steaks. It's a uniquely St. Louis thing. It's like a toasted ravioli kind of deal. It's almost like thin crust pizza. It's almost like an Emos thing. People go I know people from Chicago, and they'll go like, "Oh my God, I hate your pizza. It's terrible. It's like eating cracker with ketchup on it."
Chicago style pizza is not real thick.
Well, but once again, it depends on who you're saying is, because of the fact that you could say that like Steak and Shake is St. Louis style hamburgers. Well, it's not. That came out of Illinois. I would say that what he said, and I agree with him, that I think that Sugar Fire is probably saying, sort of setting the pace for what St. Louis style barbecue is. I mean, for example,
they are. They're amazing.
You used to have Super Smokers. Super Smokers started down in Eureka, and then they expanded all over the place, and then they contracted, and the guy sold it, and it's a new guy that owns it down in Eureka. People would say that's sort of St. Louis style barbecue. But and there was a chain years ago here in St. Louis called Memphis Best. Remember that? And,
I do.
And they had, there was Memphis style barbecue. And I'm going, okay, what's the different deal? I mean, come on. And then there's Westplex style radio. You know what Westplex style radio is?
That would be Westplex 107.1.
That would be a very intelligent woman and a stupid, goofy guy on in the mornings trying to do a morning show. That would be Westplex style radio. It's 746. Westplex 107.1. It is BS in the morning, 753. I am Brad, she is Shelley, and we are suckers for the fact that we love to have you listen to this radio station, and
yes.
We do appreciate the fact that you listen to us, go through the weird times when Shelley goes off on her strange tangents, and Brad just tries to...
I do go off on strange tangents.
Okay, I have to read this to you. I have my ex-boss, okay, who I still have a lot of respect for, but
you still are on him, aren't you?
Oh, he's just... this every day. It's this, Trump should be...
Why don't you call him?
I've talked to him directly, direct message, and he's actually been very nice to me, but he keeps saying, I have to inform the American public about how terrible Trump is and how he's a criminal and how he should be in jail and our country's never going to be the same. Well, it's never going to be the same because of the pandemic, but that had nothing to do with Trump. Something to do with Trump. I mean, he didn't start it. It's not anything that, he liked to say, hey, I want to do a virus one day and you're going to love it. Anyway, yesterday he tweets out, we all want this to end. He wants it to end even if some folks get sick from hydrochloroquine or whatever it is called. He's talking about Trump. He wants it to end even if some folks, okay? It's a talking point. Suggesting people take something that hasn't been approved as reckless. Trump has been on the record as saying, hey, we need to do this hydroxychloroquine queen, whatever the heck it is. Okay. And his thing is suggesting people take something that hasn't been approved as reckless. This is my old boss, Joel Denver. So I tweeted back, taking drugs that are not approved as reckless. That hasn't stopped a lot of people who shall remain nameless through the years.
Okay. So I thought, well, first of all, I thought that they were using a Z-Pack for...
Well, that was one of the combinations.
The Rona.
They were using the Z-Pack and this hydrochloroquine or whatever the heck it is. But you see what I'm saying there? My boss, shall we say... maybe in his younger years, he did a lot of unapproved drugs.
We almost all did.
No, I didn't.
You didn't. You were the exception to the rule.
I was always that was the reason why my early career in the radio business, I didn't go very far because of the fact that I wasn't at the boss's house, powdering,
being naughty,
powdering my nose, so to speak. Let's put it at that. Okay. Don't you find what? Wow.
Just wow.
Well, it's the truth. I put myself through college as a police dispatcher. I had a real good job. I liked it. Okay. I would have been fired back then they didn't do drug tests, but the cops knew what, a good cop can look at somebody and look at their mannerisms and say, okay. And they can pretty much tell what drug he's on. I'm telling you, I bet your daughter can do that. She's been...
she probably can.
As a paramedic, she's seen her, if she worked at the city, she's seen her share of ODs and things like that. She could probably, roll up on a scene and see the mannerisms and how people are conducting themselves. Most doctors can do that.
The people out here are really just as aggressive and weird as the people in the city.
Yeah, but once again...
It's just...
Well, like
better housing.
like Kyle with the St. Charles County Ambulance District. Okay,
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's done the presentations where he's done the oxycodone, the whole deal. He's done the presentations. I mean, his guys, they're trained for that. They know when they show up on the scene of someone who is OD'd with that. Just the same way that OD'd with other drugs. They can pretty much tell it. I mean, I'm not skilled in that. I haven't been taught in that, but I've been in situations. I mean, I think I told you this years ago. I'm in a situation where I'm driving someplace, I won't mention where, and there's this car that sort of ran off the road, and it's like heading down into a ditch. And I go, what in the world is that? And everybody's just driving by like, no big deal, no big deal. And I get out of my car, and I notice that the driver's door is open, and there's a guy sitting in there, older gentleman. And I walk up to him, and he's sort of like, he didn't know who he was. And man, I'd grab my phone, 911, police show up, a paramedic shows up, and the woman walks right up to him. And I mean, 5 seconds later, she says to him, "Are you a diabetic? Are you having a diabetic seizure?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, I am." I'm going, damn. I mean, how did she know that? It's her training, right?
Yes. And she's excellent. She is an excellent critical thinker.
Right.
You have to be a critical thinker. But it's really funny because you have to think differently as an RN as you do a paramedic.
I get it because of the fact that
it's a completely different mind structure.
Right, because the paramedics, for the most part, are trying to stabilize people and get them to the hospital, and then once they get to the hospital, then, the doctors and the nurses do whatever is necessary, life-saving stuff like that. I mean, it goes back to, geez, like, I'm an old guy, the whole concept of paramedics came out of the Vietnam War. That was the whole deal. And if you go way back, that came out of Vietnam, and who sort of started the whole the paramedic EMT deal?
The Medics in the Field?
No, the TV show, Emergency.
Really?
Oh yeah. That because that was Los Angeles County was one of the first places in the country to employ paramedics. And if you ever watched that, Squad 51, that was what they did. They weren't an ambulance. They were firefighter paramedics, and what they would do is they would show up on the scene. And remember, they had the telemetry unit where they would call Rampart, and they would say, we got a male, 40 years old, blah 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 blah, and they'd give them the stuff, and then the doctors on the other end would say, okay, give them 10 cc Ringer's lactate. Ringer's lactate was all the big thing all the time. And,
it really was. So every time I've been in the hospital, I'm like, I asked Tiffany, are they going to give me Ringers?
Well, but those two guys that were in that, I can't remember his name. The two guys, one guy's Indian, actually Indian, not like American Indian. They still do speaking engagements, and they talk about all the time that these paramedics and EMTs and firefighters come up to them and say, "I'm doing this because of you." Because, do you know what I'm talking about? The original show, you know what I mean? Emergency, it originally came out as what? Emergency, and then later it came out in reruns as what? Squad 51 or something like that? What were those guys' names? We'll talk about that next hour.
Okay.
But that's what got everybody's attention because and it was pretty interesting because I remember reading the whole story that the two guys that were the two actors, in order for them, that they really wanted to make it as real as possible, and they actually went through the Los Angeles County Paramedic School. At the time, the
I
LA...
bet it was rough because it was pretty
way back when, but they
thorough.
They never got their certification or whatever. They went through the entire program. So in other words, they knew how to do what they said they do in the show because of the fact that they actually, it's not like ER where George Clooney, do you think he ever did things he did nah, he never got his hands messy, he never got blood in his hands or anything like that, Real doctors. You know what I'm talking about? You don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do know what you're talking about.
Do you ever wonder? When we get off the air like me?
I wonder so many things.
Do you ever get off the air and I think to myself, what the hell was that we did today? Did we do anything important? Did we make anybody smile?
Actually, I never do.
Did we ever inform anybody?
I get off the air thinking that we've touched somebody's life, that somebody has learned something from what we've said or done, and we're making a difference.
And-
That's how I get off the air every single day.
And if you wonder why we call this show BS in the Morning, that was it right there. 802.
Oh, stop it.
Westplex 107.1. Yes, Ellie Golding. 810. It is BS in the Morning. I am Brad. She is Shelley. You know, we're talking about this last break about the situation with we were talking about paramedics and things like that.
We were.
And we were talking about emergency. Okay, I found this and I thought this was fascinating. In 1970, then Governor Ronald Reagan signed the Wedworth-Townsend Act in California, which allowed paramedic programs to be trialed in L.A. County. So Ronald Reagan is sort of the godfather, so to speak, of paramedics and EMT. And in September 1971, Senator and Jack Webb signed a contract with NBC to develop the series. This was Emergency. The initial pilot film of Emergency was titled The Wedworth-Townsend Act and focused on the passage of a similar law that permits paramedics to operate. Matter of fact, talked about how to train for their parts, actors Mantooth and Ty sat in some paramedics classes, although they never actually took any written exams, and they went on to extensive ride-alongs with the L.A. County Fire Department. So, and I do remember, kid in North County, they said that at the time, the L.A. County paramedic system was one of only 12 in the entire country. And you know where another one was?
Where?
Florissant. Do you remember this?
I actually do remember that.
Florissant had what they called their LSV, and that was where they had at the time they had some kind of training for those guys. It wasn't just because in the old days, you know, why do I know this? Because of the fact that I used to own one. In the old days, in most areas, the funeral homes also operated the ambulance service. And in the St. Louis area, up in North County, there was an ambulance.
They really did.
Yes,
it's like Ghostbusters. That was a hearse and a Ghostbuster machine.
But a lot of the old in the small towns, especially the funeral homes had what they weren't hearses, they were called combinations, and they were set up where they could be a hearse and an ambulance, and they typically had one red light in the roof. And they had a siren, and they had the reason they were a combination was they had what they called a cot hook, which is where the gurney would lock into in the back of the unit, and then they had the rollers for the caskets that they could take out. So in other words, they could use it as a hearse or they could use it as an ambulance. And in the old days, the goal was you threw them in the back and you drove like hell. Maybe put an oxygen mask on them. You drove like hell to the emergency room, and you dropped them off at the emergency room, and then the doctors and the nurses took over. So man, how things have changed. They really have changed. I mean, how many lives? Look at this. If you go back, and I'm not going to say, wow, look at here's the thing. I didn't even know this about President Reagan, or at the time he was governor.
My daddy was friends with him.
Well, look at how many. I used to get Christmas cards from him all the time.
Yeah, we did too. No, he was really his friend. Oh, like before he became president, when he was an actor.
Do you know what?
He was my stepdaddy's friend.
Do you know what? I know lots of I know lots of important people.
Okay.
I know Mike Elam.
I know Mike Elam too.
He's an important guy.
I'm so excited about that.
Anyway, going back to this thing. So Reagan is essentially, for all intents and purposes, sort of the father of the modern EMT paramedic movement. Can you believe that? I mean, and you know what? What's interesting about that is that, what's the old stupid saying? Those who don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. I mean, I bet you any money.
I've never heard that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's one of those things that you look back in history and you can learn so much. You can learn so much from this happened and what do we do? It's just like, man, I have to say something, and I'm going to get in trouble for this. This deal with this Captain Crozier guy, the guy that got thrown off of Teddy Roosevelt. He's the one that wrote the letter.
Yep. He's got the corona.
Yeah, but did you hear what that Modley guy, the acting Secretary of the Navy, did yesterday?
What did he do?
He got on the, I guess it was some kind of a phone patch or something like that, and he addressed the crew of the Teddy Roosevelt, through the PA system. In other words, wherever he was in D.C., they hooked him up, and the ship is docked in Guam right now, the aircraft carrier Teddy Roosevelt. And he got on the PA system and gave like a speech to the sailors, and he called Captain Crozier stupid and naive.
I'm speechless.
And now that's the backlash on that is to the point where there are a lot of people going like, okay, hold on a minute. He made a mistake.
A lot of people view him as a true patriot and a hero.
But if you talk to military, if you talk to your son-in-law, anybody who's been through the military, the thing that is, like my dad was in the Army for 40 years. He always talked about chain of command. That if you did not necessarily agree with what was happening with your superior officer, that
you respect the position.
Well, but you could go to a person higher than him, but you put yourself at risk.
It's called the triad.
Well, you put yourself at risk to the point where if you're going above your superior officer, you go to hit your boss's boss, so to speak. But yet the problem in this one is that I can see where the military is upset with him because he essentially did this and did it in a way that he was sort of hoping the press would get a hold of it. You know what I mean? And that's the point where it's like, you don't want that, And I'm going to say something else, okay? And maybe this is totally inappropriate, but no, seriously, I'm
being serious.
No, I'm making a serious comment, and this is in all sincerity when I say this.
Okay.
If we really had some adversaries who are out to get us, they would strike right now.
That's true. But they're too busy keeping their country up.
Well, not necessarily. This is not, in other countries, Russia doesn't have near the problem that we have. North Korea doesn't have our problem. At least they claim they don't have any problem because nobody travels outside of North Korea. There's no airlines. Well, there are, but they've all shut down. But the idea being is that when do you strike when someone is, if you are like, military person, when do you go after him? You try to attack when your enemy is at their weakest, right? And problems, with that kind of a thing. Anyway, now there are people in Congress who are trying to get this guy. He's the acting Secretary of the Navy, Modley. They're trying to get him to be fired, resign, the whole bit. And even it's to the point where if you read the morning's press, it's both on CNN and as well as Fox. They're talking about that Trump may get involved in this. So that's going to be interesting.
So he's going to get involved in the controversy from the captain saying, the medical officer saying rude things about the captain of the Navy?
It wasn't the medical officer. It was the head, the guy who's the acting chief of the Navy, Modley.
Got it.
Yes, right here.
Yeah, that was probably unprofessional, and he probably should have thought twice before he made that statement.
Here's the headline: Navy aircraft carrier ousting takes new turn, prompting president hint at getting involved. And the story starts off as President Trump on Monday said at a press conference that he might get involved in the public crisis playing out in the Navy after an aircraft carrier commander was ousted after raising an alarm about a coronavirus outbreak on the ship in a leaked letter. Acting Navy Secretary Thomas Modley appeared to worsen the situation when he gave a surprise speech to the sailors of the USS Theodore Roosevelt and called ousted Captain Brett Kosher too naive or too stupid to be a commanding officer of a ship like this. Not the kind of things you go on the
absolutely not
PA system of a aircraft carrier and diss the former captain, especially when the guy was very, very, very much roundly supported and obviously loved by his crew. So I think that's probably a little bit demoralizing to the crew. But,
You think so?
Well, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, one of those things. I mean, I'm telling you, a good friend of mine, when I was a young lad who took me under his wing and taught me a lot about ham radio and stuff like that, was a communications officer in one of the aircraft carriers. And I was like, at the time, 12, 13, 14 years old. And man, he told me some stories because he was like high up the food chain. He had the, top security clearance. He wasn't an officer, but he was way up the food chain as far as an enlisted man. And he was he was in the communications room, and he had all these, he had top secret clearance because he would see, all the special stuff because he was the guy that was there as their communications officer. Back in the day, everything was sent, via teletype. And believe it or not, they were still using Morse code. That shows how old I am. And he was privy to all sorts of stuff. And man, he told me some things. And I was a young kid. And at the time, I still remember he would talk about there was the communication system that between him and the captain, and there was a special intercom between him and the captain, and they called it I don't think I can use the word, but they called it the witch box, but with the capital B, if you know what I'm saying. And,
I know. They did that in the FAA.
right. And the captain would get on the witch box and complain to him about problems, and he was supposed to fix them. So that was the interesting thing. And at the time,
I hope that they're not they did not experience the issues with private messaging being available at the end of the call like Zoom is.
Well, the thing that sort of gets me is that I watch a lot of stuff like on TikTok and things like that, and there's a bunch of military stuff on there. I'm thinking to myself, man, is the Department of Defense approving that these guys are shooting video on the aircraft carriers and putting that out on social media? I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, and for a while there was a deal where some of the fitness apps where you'd have like what is it, the like my son used to work on that when he was with Garmin. I can't remember their particular what the Fitbits. That wasn't a Garmin thing, but I can't remember the name of the ones that Garmin was, and they would track those. And they would know where all the the American Army guys were because of the fact that you could see if they would put their Fitbit on public, you know what I'm talking about, where you can share your statistics and things like that, and they would be able to tell where all the officers and all the enlisted men were all over the world because they would be track them by their Fitbit. I'm going, that's not good, Cell phones the same way. 821 Westplex 107.1, new rules, and that's what we're experiencing every single day with what's going on with the whole deal with the C-19 deal. Every single day, the rules change, don't they, Shelley?
Every single day. Actually, hour by hour.
Yeah, it's crazy. Recapping what happened yesterday afternoon. This is still on westplex.news if you want to take a look at this. Over 35 patients and staff have tested positive for the virus at the Pioneer Health. Isn't that what it is, Pioneer?
Frontier
Health and Rehabilitation Center on actually it's on West Clay east of Zumble there in St. Charles. And quite a few of the staff and patients at the Centerpoint Hospital down there in Weldon Spring at 94 and O'Fallon Road have tested positive as well, too. So not a good situation as far as St. Charles County is concerned. And around the area, still not the best, but you know what? We talked about this last hour. Still not the worst because you still see some of these makeshift hospitals they're putting together, like on the floor of the Javits Center, the convention center in New York City. Still not hardly anybody there. They still talked about the two Navy hospital ships, the one that's now anchored in Los Angeles and also the one in New York City. Very few people on there, although they've changed. I don't know if you saw that. They changed the deal. They were going to try to use the one in New York City as an overflow for non-C-19 patients. And now they're essentially saying they're going to open it up to everybody. There's only like 20 people on that hospital ship. Have you ever seen video of the inside of those hospital ships?
No, I have not.
Holy cow. I mean, talk about sophisticated and talk about a hospital, literally a floating hospital. I think there's 10 operating theaters and just an amazing, amazing vessel. All the stuff that's on there and all the know-how and stuff like that. Just amazing stuff. I'm always amazed at the ingenuity of various people that can build things like that, like a hospital that floats. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things.
Yes, I do. It's actually fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that and you go like, whoa. And then the training of the people. And once again, everybody's talking about, we want to thank the healthcare workers. Yeah, we do. But there's the people behind the scenes, the truck drivers and, the guys working at the distribution centers, the warehouses.
Those are the ones that you really have to worry about because those truck drivers are working, 24/7 trying to keep America running. And a lot of their comforts have been taken.
Well, yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I saw some videos online of some of the truck drivers talking about the fact that they can't get a shower anymore, that a lot of the truck stops have stopped serving food. Some of the truck stops won't even let you inside anymore. Where do you go to the bathroom? Well, I think we've probably all answered that question by now. But, anyway, interesting as far as all the different people. And you know what? And not only that, but, every day there are people out there still, construction guys still working. It's interesting. I read some interesting thing about that. It depends on which state you're in. Some of the states, like, for example, in Missouri, they've essentially deemed all construction is essential. So in other words, they haven't shut any construction projects down. They've refocused on some of the projects which are like healthcare and things like that. But in other states, unless you're working on infrastructure or healthcare, construction stopped. No home building, no commercial, real estate bill or commercial retail building or anything like that. It's pretty much come to a standstill because the governments in the particular states have said, nope, can't do that unless you're doing infrastructure repair, rehabilitation, or new infrastructure, or if you're doing, healthcare stuff, construction has to stop. I'm going like, why is that? You know what I mean? It's not like the guys are in an office like shoulder to shoulder. God, I saw the funniest video yesterday.
What is that?
Oh, speaking of that, it's this video shot, and it's like in a cube farm, and you see all these guys, and it's all guys, and you see all these guys in these cubes, and there's a woman at the very front of the cube farm, and she answers the phone, and she's obviously talking to the boss, and she's in a very loud voice saying, "Oh, hi, Mr. So-and-so. Oh, you're not going to be into work today?" And as soon as she says that, every guy in the cubicle stands up, and they have their golf bags over their shoulder.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And then she says, "Oh, well, but you want everybody to be at the meeting at the Zoom meeting at 11 o'clock," and they all sit back down and put their golf bags down. And then she says something about like, "But you don't care where they're at," and they pick up their golf clubs. It was really, there's like. In this video, there's like dozens of people in this scene, and it was like, man, how did they choreograph that? To the point where, at the exact same time, all these guys stand up and they all have their golf bags over their shoulders. It was pretty good, but you know how that is when the boss is away.
It's hilarious.
The mice will play. It is 8:37.
Yeah, I'm taking the day off in case. Don't tell my boss though.
Hold it, you're talking now. I got to restart because of the fact that you were talking. And
I'm always talking, honey.
Well, I got to stop. Hold on a minute. You messed up. Hold on.
Oh my goodness. Cut me off like you always do.
Well, I can't. I was not in a position where I could physically do it. Otherwise I would have. And I started the commercial, but I didn't. Anyway, it's a long story. Okay, now.
Blah, blah, blah.
Don't say anything after I say the time. It's 8:37. Westplex 107.1. I get so tired of women saying that to me. It just drives me crazy.
What, that you're so pretty?
No, sit still and look pretty. Just like, okay, do you mean I just got to sit here and sort of just, fluff my hair up and,
toss your hair and check your nails.
Be in my Don Johnson, Armani suits with, no socks.
Socks.
And my white super expensive shoes. What's a real expensive man's shoe? You would know that. Come on, what's a real expensive man's shoe brand? What was the one that O.J. Simpson wore? What was it? Something.
That was a Nike.
No. The ones in the trial where they had footprints of the blood and they tracked it down to some very expensive.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't pay attention to all that. I think he did it. So shut him off.
And he claimed he never wore those kind of shoes, and yet there was a picture of him doing an on-field interview with some of the football players, and he had those shoes on. What was that? Hold on a minute. It's got Bruno Mali. I think that's what it was. Is that name right? O.J. Simpson. People are going to go, who's O.J. Simpson? Isn't that interesting? There's a generation of people that don't know who O.J. Simpson is.
Bruno Magli.
But I think they pronounce it Mowgli. I don't think you pronounce the G.
There's a G in there.
I don't think you pronounce it though.
They're sporty though.
Well, but they're expensive too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. They're almost $400.
Yeah, men's slip-ons $394. Raging leather slip-ons $395. Oh, here's one. Enzo Scaruti leather loafer $1,100. Oh, wow. And like O.J. Simpson's shoes by Bruno Mali led to his downfall, $25 million in damages, footwear news. Okay, hold it. Let me read this. This is interesting.
He was reading the Lorenzo. He was wearing the Lorenzo model.
No, okay. It's been 20 years since the California jury found former football, this is an older article, and not guilty, blah, 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 blah. To this day, people are still talking about all the key factors like the infamous gloves he tried on in court, to the bloody size 12 Bruno Mali shoe print left behind at the scene. O.J. Simpson happened to wear a size 12. Whoever wore the shoes in question chose the Italian shoes brand's Lorenzo model. TV news observers were fascinated with nearly every detail of the trial, even outside the gory crime, from the outrageous witnesses, blah, 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 blah. Come on, get to the heart of the story here. So in Simpson's deposition, come on, there just goes on and on and on. A civil trial photograph was found of Simpson wearing the Bruno Mali shoes at a Bills game. That's the one. Ultimately, the court found him liable for the deaths and was ordered to pay $25 million punitive damages. So that's the one I'm talking about, that he says, I never wore a pair of Bruno Mali shoes, and that there's a picture of him at a football game wearing the Bruno Mali shoes. Man, was that an incredible time. And you know what's really crazy? If you go back and watch the old police story movies, with Leslie Nielsen.
Yes.
Simpson is like the foil in those. You know what I'm talking about? He's like the goofy dude in there.
He is.
Yes.
He's actually the one that runs. He was the tourist man, too. Tourister?
Well, but Norberg, that was his name. I think they called him Norberg in the police squad. The police squad one.
Yes, he did. He was.
The classic one was where he's in the hospital. Did you ever see that one? God, that's a great scene. I can't remember which one that's in. He's in the hospital, and he's all bandaged up, and you'd have to watch the scene. It's pretty funny.
Who's all bandaged up? Leslie Nielsen or
O.J. Simpson? He gets injured. I can't remember. He gets injured somehow. They were on like a stakeout or something like that. He gets injured. He gets almost killed, and he's in the hospital. And O.J. Simpson, Norberg's wife, shows up, and Leslie Nielsen starts talking about, well, here's the problem he's got. He's got this, and everything that he says at the time. O.J. Simpson is feeling that. He's talking about it's going to be a slow, painful death because first off, what's going to happen is this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and then somehow physically he gets bounced out of the bed. I can't remember the whole scene. God, those movies are funny. And if you ever watch the Airplane movies or the original Airplane with Leslie Nielsen and that cast, oh my God, there's one scene, and this is it's funny because the people of today, like the kids, if my kids watch this today, and my youngest son's like 25, 26 now, I don't think he'd get a lot of the stuff in there because there's this one scene where Robert.
I think he would.
Oh, no,
and
no,
the
no.
only reason for that is because he listens to, he's an old soul.
No, because he wouldn't get the airport scene where Robert Stack, the captain, was walking through the airport and he's attacking all these people that used to panhandle at the airport. Remember, like the moon people and the people that had the shaved heads? Remember, they were always in the airport trying to talk to you about, finding God and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? All the crazy people that used to hang out at the airport that would and see, they pretty much
I just forgot what they're called.
Well, there were all sorts of different
Hare
groups.
Krishna.
The Hare Krishna people. There were all sorts of different ones. And that was back in the day when you didn't have to go through the metal detectors and you could walk all the way down. Remember that? When you could walk down to the gate? Like, let's say if someone
yes, I do remember
you
that.
were sending off one of your family members or something like that. Or with me, like a business, I had people that would fly in and out of town, and I would literally walk down the concourse and wait for them at where their plane, where they got off the what do you call it, the skywalk, or what is that? What's that thing? You know what I'm talking about? What's it called?
The terminal?
No, the thing that attaches to the plane when you get off, the sky jack, or what is it that?
Okay, the walkway.
Yeah, but there's a term for it. I can't remember what it is. By the way.
Yeah, I just go by the walkway.
By the way, there's an English show, and it was recently done, and I'm going like, okay, the English people, the English government must have a different, view of this than the Americans do, because it's this series that was done in England, and it's about this particular airline, and it follows a bunch of the students who learn how to fly, and then they ultimately, become, first officers, and then they move up through the ranks and the whole bit. and has a lot of women in it. Nothing wrong with that, but it's sort of interesting because they have a lot of women pilots in this. And this was done in the last couple of years. And the cockpit doors, at least in the planes in England, are not secured. You can just walk in and out of the cockpit. And there's scenes where
I remember that.
Well, but no, this is recently though. I mean, this is like
recently.
Oh yeah,
that they can walk out of into the cockpit.
This is a relatively new series. It was on English TV.
Oh, okay. It's a TV thing. I missed that.
But it's in England, and apparently they must not have the same rules and regulations that we have now since 9/11 because they show. This is like a documentary. There's like 5 or 6 different. It's almost like a Tiger King kind of deal. There's like 5 or 6 different episodes of it. They're each about 40 minutes long. And the captains walk back and forth, and sometimes the captains actually go out in the plane and grab the microphone from the flight attendants and stand in front of the plane and talk to the passengers. I'm going like, man, I've never seen that happen on any flight I've ever been on, and there's a couple instances where there are medical emergencies. This was like a documentary. There are medical emergencies where the captain gets out of the cockpit and walks back to the plane and is working with some of these people who are having like medical emergencies. And the door to the cockpit's open. I'm going like, I don't know about this, I mean, I guess maybe they don't have the same restrictions we have in the United States because, after 9/11, man, they made all the cockpits to the point where it's like Fort Knox. Once the captain
really did.
Gets in there, he's locked in there, him and the first officer. You can't get in and he can't get out unless they, because remember that was that plane that crashed, that the guy committed suicide. He was the co-pilot. And remember that? It was several years ago where the pilot went out of the cockpit and then the co-pilot locked him out and flew the plane into a mountain and killed everybody. Remember that one?
I don't.
Jetway. That's what it is. The smartest woman in the world. The Jetway. Yes. Why couldn't I think of that? The Jetway. The thing that goes. And the other interesting thing was in the airports in England, at least the ones they keep showing the people, they don't have jetways. They have the stairs that people walk up and down.
Yeah. No, I don't do the stairs.
Well, but I'm going like
I do the escalators.
No.
Walking walkway?
No. I'm talking the way they get on the planes. They don't have the jetways.
I've done that one time, and that was because it was on the tarmac.
Yeah, but that's the way they show it in England. Is that they have the little truck that has the stairs on it, and it drives up to the side of the plane, and the people come down and they walk across the tarmac into the terminals. I'm going, man, things are a lot different in England. I'll have to look this up. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Hey, we're done.
That's for smaller planes.
No. These were big planes. I mean, they were flying all Airbus 320s, 340s, things like that. These were not small planes. These were not like the puddle jumper commuter planes. These were full size planes, and these were at major airports in England, like Manchester and places like.
Yeah,
this was not
I've only walked across the tarmac for a commuter plane.
Yeah. Okay, that's done for us. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
8:58. Everybody, have a great day. Peace.